To cram all these notes in the little bit of time we have left. Okay, so endocrine, lymphatic, we are moving on with the endocrine system. We talked about the pituitary and the pineal, with the pituitary being the master gland. Now we're kind of like moving down the body because the pineal and the pituitary were in the brain, so we're kind of like going down. The thyroid is the next, so this is like in the throat region. I'm choking myself. The thyroid gland is kind of in the neck, throat area, and it's kind of found at the base of the throat, neck, or below the Adam's apple. Adam's apple is basically your larynx. I don't know why they call it Adam's apple, but there are two lobes, one on either side, and the follicles are hollow structures that store material, colloidal material. Produces two hormones, the thyroid hormone and calcitonin. And then you have the parathyroids, which is like these little portions. There's 4 of those. So you have the thyroid, and then you have the parathyroid. So the endocrine and lymphatic labeling isn't very big of a labeling assignment. Now the cat labeling, that's another story. The cat packet is much larger, which is why I did have a crash course, but I cut that out. See, look, I'm thinking of you. And cut the crash course out. Oh, and your tests are graded. I still have 2 people who need to take it though, so I'm not going to post it until those 2 people take it. And then I'll decide if it needs a curve or not. So.
I swear to the
I did notice a couple mistakes with the.
Yeah, you told me.
Yeah.
And it was wrong.
I noticed a couple mistakes with the answer key, which I went back and corrected. So I double checked a couple things and I took that into account.
So I can file on something?
Yeah. So
Probably not.
I went back through everything and checked it very carefully. So anyway, thyroid, cartilage, and epiglottis are parts of the respiratory system, really. The epiglottis is, again, the flappiness that covers the trachea when you're swallowing. And really the only part here that is actually the endocrine is the thyroid. When we dissect the cat, you're not gonna, it's really hard to see the thyroid. You can, but it looks like just kind of tissue around the throat. You can see it if you cut really carefully. So when you dissect the cat, you are going to want to go all the way up the neck, all the way to the chin region, but you're just going to want to be super careful with the neck so that you don't damage the thyroid too much. So looking at it under a microscope, there are a lot of these follicles that are really big, because remember with glands, they're made from epithelial tissue, and the glands they're producing the hormones, and so they're going to be filled with a lot of fluid and a lot of other material. So you have the epithelial tissue that's surrounding it, and then the materials that are inside it. So it's going to look a lot different when we actually do the lab, because they're going to be fluid-filled pockets that you're going to see. So the colloid-filled follicles are the big pink things that you're seeing there. So then you have your parathyroid glands, and these are the tiny little pieces that are on the inside. When we do the dissection, you're definitely not going to see these because they're kind of on the inside and they're really, really small. If it's difficult to see the thyroid, you're definitely not going to see the parathyroid. Really small on the back side, so you'd have to remove the thyroid in order to see them. They are going to secrete the parathyroid hormone, or PTH for short, and they are regulators of calcium ions. Now, calcium plays a lot of different roles, a lot with muscular contraction too, and so stimulates osteoclasts to remove calcium from bones. So not only with muscular contraction, but dealing with how strong the bones are and the calcium in the bones. There's a lot that goes on with that.
Can you take like calcium pills to make your bones stronger?
You can, but some calcium pills are more effective than others, like your body absorbs them better than others. And calcium actually conflicts with iron. So if you take a lot of calcium, it will actually deplete your iron. So it's like a balancing act between the two.
Or what's like, how can you get iron up?
You can take the calcium and the iron at different times, and you can take the iron with vitamin C, because iron and vitamin C actually help each other. So it's, as long as you don't take the calcium and the iron together, you take them at like separate times a day. So kind of stagger it. I was really anemic with all of my pregnancies, so I took calcium and iron supplements, but I'd have to like take one at one time a day and take the other at another time a day. So it was just take them separately.
What are like the best vitamins to take? Sorry, I get like so curious.
No, it depends. Well, the vitamin depends on what your stomach can handle, and it also depends on your age. So different stages of life requires different vitamins, but some are harder on your stomach than others. And like I have a really sensitive stomach and I have stomach issues, so I can only take certain vitamins because others make me sick. So finding a vitamin that doesn't make me sick is tricky. So for you guys, you probably don't need a vitamin as long as your diet is healthy. But I give my kids a vitamin. So.
I used to think I was like Drew from Euphoria, sneaking up on some vitamin.
Flintstone vitamins are actually decent because they have iron in them, and that's probably why they taste funny to some people, is because of the iron.
I'd rather just swallow a pill and have nasty burps.
Yeah, the only
Actually, it's not like a vitamin. I have to wait
I always
till
had
lunch.
fruit snacks that tasted like my.
You should always take a vitamin with food because there are some parts of the vitamin that can only be dissolved with fat.
Yeah.
And so taking a vitamin with food is important because that helps the particular parts of the vitamin absorb with the food.
This weekend I took like 3, what's it called? The red something vinegar. Apple cider vinegar.
Apple cider
vitamins.
vinegar.
And those are supposed to be really good for you.
Mm-hmm.
Like in a bunch of ways.
Yeah.
But it was 1 gram of sugar per each.
Alright, so then you have the thymus, which is located kind of closer to the heart, right below the sternum. And with the thymus, it's larger in infants and children, and then it gets smaller and smaller as you go through adulthood. Produces the hormone called thymosin. Matures some types of white blood cells and important in developing the immune system. So thyroid is in the neck and thymus is in the chest area. And of course they have to sound very similar, which isn't confusing at all. Thank you, scientists.
You're welcome.
do on the last week?
Absolutely nothing.
Like good or bad?
Both?
It's boring.
Yeah.
The day before, on Thursday, it's like a service day in the morning where they have different activities for you to do to try and, like, some people will go,
Also,
Collect
Thursday
trash
morning is senior prank cleanup.
yeah, that's true. And then, in the afternoon, they're trying to, they did trivia in the past, but I think they're trying to think of something different to do in the afternoon. Because the teachers keep winning the trivia, so it's not fun anymore.
I feel like they need to have like at least one teacher in each group.
Yeah. So they're trying to think of something else to do. I suggested something, but I don't know if it would happen.
Grayson, you would win like
What
the
was
brain rot trivia.
I suggested food trucks.
They had like something about like TikTok.
Actually,
No, it wasn't like brain rot, but it was like
Like meme or something.
Yeah.
And then I don't know what they'll do Friday morning. Probably nothing. Alright, adrenal glands. These sit on top of the kidneys, and they have the adrenal cortex and the adrenal medulla. So the adrenal cortex is like the outer glandular portion, and then the adrenal medulla is the inner neural region. So they have different layers, as you can see here. So medulla is kind of the inner, the cortex is this portion. Think about how we learned with the kidneys, there's a cortex and a medulla. So we've got our cortex and the medulla. So when we dissected the kidney, we couldn't really see them, even though we had the kidney pulled out from, what was it, a sheep or a pig? Sheep. We still couldn't see it, and when we dissect the cat, we're not going to be able to see it very well either. It's just a smaller structure, so once we remove the tissue and stuff, it's hard to see the adrenal glands.
Jackson Miller, please return to Mr. Gexler's room. Jackson Miller, go back to class.
But they are there. They're just difficult to see once all the tissue gets removed. The kidneys themselves are kind of difficult to find with the cat dissection. You have to go all the way to the back, and then they're under a layer of tissue, so you actually have to move the membrane aside in order to find the kidneys. But they're all the way at the very, very, very back, under a membrane. So when we dissect the cats next week, like I said, the first day is going to be you exploring on your own, and that's why you do the cat dissection prep, to kind of learn where the structures are, and by now the whole point of anatomy was to learn the structures, and this way you can see them. I'll go over how to cut the cat appropriately, and it'll be similar cuts to what you guys did with the pig, but then you will dissect the cat, and then the first day is you exploring. Try not to mutilate the cat, because if we do the cat test, you'll want the cat in nice pieces so that it's not mutilated for your test. But then the next day I will go over all the structures with you to make sure you know what you're looking at. Alright, so here are the structures of the adrenal gland. You've got the capsule at the top, and then you've got right underneath that the this is another fun one, mineralocorticoid secreting area. Again, I think they're just mushing words together at this point. Glucocorticoid secreting area. And then sex hormone secreting, and then medulla. So obviously this one's secreting minerals, this one's secreting gluco, and this one's secreting the sex hormones, and then adrenal medulla. So I think they just want to put words together at this point and just mash it all together. We do have adrenal glands, so we will be able to see this on our lab on Thursday. So hormones of the adrenal gland is aldosterone and cortisone and cortisol. That's what the mineralocortical, it regulates water and electrolytes. And then the I can't say that one. Cortisone and cortisol. Normal cell metabolism and long-term stressors by increasing blood glucose levels. If you've ever been or heard of hypoglycemia, that's what your adrenal glands help with. crazy long words. At least the names in this case give a hint to what they produce, so that's helpful.
It's so peaceful without air in here.
It's always like quiet, isn't it?
Exactly.
Adrenal medulla. I'm sure you've heard of epinephrine and norepinephrine. Epinephrine is what gives you adrenaline, and norepinephrine is noradrenaline, so kind of the opposite. These hormones prepare the body to deal with short-term stress with the fight or flight responses. So all of this is in that adrenal gland. So even though we can't find the adrenal gland when we are dissecting, it's a really important gland. The epinephrine is that fight or flight response. It increases the heart rate, blood pressure increases, blood glucose levels, dilating the small vessels by the lungs to allow more oxygen into your body. It's basically preparing you to survive and fight for your life and survive pretty much. And that way your body can do what's necessary in order to overcome whatever kind of catastrophe might be coming your way. So your body is automatically going to kick into this response if you're startled by something. Do you need to run away? Do you need to freeze? Do you need to get out of harm's way? What kind of response do you need to do? But no matter what you need to do, your body's prepared for it by this adrenal response. Right in front of me. So then we have the pancreas, both endocrine and exocrine glands. So it's one of those unique features that's both an endocrine and an exocrine. So secreting into ducts, but also secreting directly into the bloodstream. It has pancreatic isolates, called the isolates of Langerhans. Produces hormones. You've got insulin, which are beta cells, and glucagon, which are alpha cells. These hormones are antagonists. They kind of work opposite each other to maintain the blood sugar homeostasis. So one of them is going to activate it, and one of them is going to decrease it, and they're going to, between the two of them, balance that blood sugar homeostasis. Now, obviously, they screw up a lot, which is why people have diabetes. So if you have diabetes, then it's usually the pancreas that is at fault for this. And they usually have to have some form of insulin to help offset this. Type 2 diabetes is the one that usually just requires a pill supplement. And type 1 diabetes is the one that usually requires injections or some kind of pump to monitor it. So type 1 is more severe.
Do you ever hold your spiders?
What?
Do you ever hold your spiders?
What am I doing?
This one is not the big one.
What?
Is it the big one?
The one I hold, I took home. I was going to take it to the Columbia Earth Day event, but the Earth Day event got canceled.
It's moved to the 4th, isn't it?
So it's still at home. Same with Liz. Liz was going to go to the Earth Day event on Sunday. Because of all my pets, he's the one most likely to stand up against 1,000 children. But again, it got moved to this coming Sunday, so that's why Liz is still at home. I was honestly kind of glad it got moved because I needed my weekend. But then it occurred to me, I have a 2-day weekend this coming weekend too.
Teacher work day.
And 2-day weekend the next weekend, but then that's it.
And you have your entire week.
3 5-day weeks in a row though. What is up with that? Like a normal person.
Only
What do people do 5-day weeks?
Monday is my only day to sleep. I said I have to go 2 weeks straight, so I'm not going to sleep in.
We still next week too.
No, it's a teacher work day. What's fine? It makes us grumpy. Do you want us grumpy this time of year? I mean, really.
I mean, I'm never gonna see y'all again, so
Well, but I still have to give you tests.
it's true.
Do you want me grumpy?
Absolutely
Let's try
not,
this
because you're my
again.
favorite
Okay.
teacher in the whole wide world.
Okay, that's better. That's more like it. All right, so here are the pancreatic isolates in the pancreas and the exocrine cells. So this is what the pancreas looks like on a microscopic level. So we'll look at these during our microscope lab on Thursday, which I still have to make because I thought I had a lab made. I do not, but I'll have it made by Thursday because I'm cool like that. I can just whip up a lab like nothing. All right, another view of what the pancreas looks like. There's a lot of capillaries going through it because the capillaries obviously can bring nutrients. We have the exocrine cells, exocrines leading out to the body, whereas endocrine cells leading into the bloodstream. And then we have the beta cells secreting the insulin into the capillaries. And then your red ones are the alpha cells, and the blue ones are beta cells. Pancreas sounds like a complicated organ, and it is. We also have the ovaries and the testes, the reproductive organs. So these are also going to produce different kinds of hormones, most of them which you are familiar with. Ovaries produce estrogen and progesterone. Testes produce testosterone. Even though females only have ovaries, they still have some testosterone, just like males still have a little bit of estrogen and progesterone. Just obviously not as much. And if you look at the structures, the pink and the blue, the estrogen and the testosterone, they look really similar. Like the build of them are very similar. There's only a couple differences between the two.
Are we gonna have to be able to identify each other?
That'd be really mean. to identify the difference.
You made us do that with Carla.
Those look different though.
What?
Yeah,
Those
that's
don't look
true.
different.
Yeah, I mean, I did make you do it in biology with like the macro molecules, but that was
You made us
different.
do it this year too.
Yeah, with the tissues I did. The tissues are different.
No tissues for what?
I knew everything she was doing.
Tissues are expected though. Histology, that's kind of expected for anatomy to know the difference between these. Estrogen and progesterone. Estrogen stimulates the secondary female characteristics, mature the reproductive organs, promotes breast development, regulates the menstrual cycle. So estrogen is in charge of all of that. Progesterone also helps with the menstrual cycle, and that really helps with implanting embryos. So if a female is having trouble getting pregnant, they may give progesterone injections to help with that process, and also prepares the breast for lactation. So lots of progesterone will also help with the lactation process. Again though, you'll notice that the two look very, very similar to each other. There's just a few differences. It really is quiet in here. Maybe Aaron is the antagonist.
I told you.
Alright, testes produce androgens. Testosterone is the most important one. It is responsible for the male secondary sexual characteristics, facial hair, larger muscle mass, deeper voice, those kinds of things, and mostly required for sperm cell production. And it looks like if we scroll back up really quick, I mean, look at this one, and then look at those. It's just very similar to those. They all look the same.
So we take the muscle test this semester?
What?
We did that last semester.
No, we took it this semester.
Muscle was this semester.
Oh, I
Yep.
mean the bones.
Bones
We're
was
gonna
last
get a lot
semester.
of that on this.
Oh gosh.
Muscle identification.
Bones and arms.
Should pull out the arm.
I'm sorry,
If you want to know what we did, if you go back to Google Classroom and look through like the topics in there, and that shows all we did. So it was like muscles,
I swear.
nerves, cardiovascular, respiratory, digestive. We did go a lot.
Probably do.
Alright, so this has a good kind of summary chart of the different glands, the hormones they produce, what they do, and what they're regulated by. So just a really good kind of summary. Summarizes everything in I like charts. Summarizes everything so neatly, so pretty. It's everything nice and neat together. Even gives a picture. Tells the chemical composition. Everything everything's summarized so nice. Alright, look, we're done. With time to spare to pass out your assignments. Let me pause the video though. Okay.